Hello, this is Eva Hamer. I'm going to be talking at a panel at VCOP 21 on April 26th, 12 Pacific, 3 Eastern. VCOP 21, Making Change Happen. It's a 2-day event. It's going to be on the 26th and 27th of April. It's all online, and I hope to see you there.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mariquita Solis with Climate Healers, and I want to make sure to invite you to VCOP 21. It's going to be happening on April 26th and 27th, Making Big Change Happen. And I'm excited to talk today with Eva Hamer. She is going to be one of the guests at VCOP 21. So I want to learn a little bit more about Eva and hear her story, and make sure that you all mark your calendars for this big event. So thanks for talking with me today, Eva.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks so much for having me.
Well, I'm looking forward to your session at VCOP. And I want to hear about your vegan journey a little bit. How long have you been vegan?
Been vegan for just over 20 years myself. So I went vegan when I was 13. The only one I knew. It was a bit of a fluke because I didn't know really why I was doing it. I thought that it would be kind of an interesting challenge. I had stopped eating, at least land animals because of animal rights. It had always really bothered me that people were eating animals as soon as I learned that meat was animals. But when I went vegan, I actually kind of learned about the how before really the why. So at 13 years old, I started to do all the research. I thought I was just going to do it for a month, that it was going to be really hard, that it was going to be this, exercise and discipline. I went to school with this new little factoid about myself, and the kids at school were like, well, why would you do it? And I was like, oh yeah, I don't really know why. I mean, doesn't hurt a chicken to lay eggs. And so then I went home and kind of did the research and was absolutely horrified at what I found. I think a lot of people who learn about the industry probably have a sense that they want to just look away, which I did too. Like, what I found was really horrible and I didn't really want to engage with it anymore. But for me at that point, that would have meant not changing my diet back. So sometimes I say that I tricked myself, that by kind of starting the action, by starting at least the diet, I was able to kind of engage more deeply with the philosophy and with the industry and what it really meant to be eating animal products, and just, absolutely couldn't go back at that point.
Right. Well, that's incredible that you gained awareness at 13. What'd your family think?
Well, my 2 older siblings had already moved out, so it was just me and my mom at that point. So my mom was pretty forgiving. I think it was pretty annoying after when that month was up and I still hadn't gone back. I think that it was a little grating on her, but no, she's been great and very accommodating. She learned a few new recipes for me, and we would, generally eat vegan at home together.
Wonderful. Have any other family members gone vegan?
Nobody's gone vegan themselves. They all accommodate me when I'm around, so we all eat vegan together when we're sharing a meal, which I really, can't say how much I appreciate. But I'm still the only vegan in the family.
Well, that's wonderful, though. I mean, that they're accommodating. And there are some families that are not that lucky. So some people, that's good to hear. So tell me about your organization.
Yeah. So in 2021, I started Fauna with my colleague Aiden and Koku. And we did a couple of years of original research. We had this question of why isn't the animal rights movement making the progress that we wish it would? We'd both been involved for a good handful of years at that point and just hadn't seen the change that we wanted, which I'm sure, we can all relate to. And so we started with some research asking questions about, why is it that we see in some survey results, see things like some 30% of Americans will support bans on slaughterhouses. And in those same surveys, you see 98% of people agreeing with the statement that eating meat is a personal choice. No one can tell me what to do. And, not feeling really surprised at that 98%, right? Like that most people are really protective over their personal choice to eat animals, but feeling really curious about that number, sometimes around 30% of people who will support closing slaughterhouses. And so we did some research by asking, we did a review of kind of literature around, similar research that had been done before. We did a review of media opposition and animal movement messages. And then we did some original research where we ran focus groups and interviews of just ordinary Americans, people who eat meat, and asked them open-ended questions about how they think about animals used for food. And we learned a lot of really interesting stuff. We also tested some different messages, some different kind of frames. So once we did all these interviews, we listened to how people kind of thought about using animals for food. And what was really interesting in that stage was that people would sort of talk themselves into really supportive positions. We were not arguing. We were not presenting any messages at all. It was just open-ended questions. What comes up when you think about animals used for food? And they would kind of move through these different levels of thought. Like it was first defensiveness, like even just that question, what comes to mind when you think about animals used for food? Some defensiveness, some like giving me all the justifications for why they're not vegan. Didn't mention, really did our best to try not to present ourselves as animal rights people or vegans. And still this defensiveness, just bringing up the subject.
This is in person.
And we would just,
is this in person?
These were all on Zoom. This was very, early pandemic, all on Zoom, but also, easy to kind of get people from all over the country that way. And they would, start with some defensiveness, and then they would kind of be able to talk themselves into acknowledging like, well, I try not to think about it. Like it's something that's really unpleasant to think about. And I actively try not to think about it when I'm in the grocery store or the restaurants. And I think that what was surprising to me is that I knew that people tried not to think about it, but I didn't know that they knew that they were actively trying not to think about animals used for food. And then we tried these different messages that in interviews, it just sounded like, okay, imagine a scenario where restaurants, food producers, grocery stores, governments, citizens all work together to phase meat out gradually. Would you support a total transition away from using animals for food? And people, after, a half an hour of just kind of listening, of like talking through their beliefs, would pretty overwhelmingly say yes. Like, yes, I would support a total transition. And yet that's so different, right? That's so different from how we see people behave out in the world. And so in focus groups, we tested some messages and found a few things that seemed to kind of reduce defensiveness and allow people to kind of say what I really connect with as like some truth about their beliefs. And we found some really interesting things that like a meat eating messenger felt really effective. That if somebody says, yeah, I really enjoy good steak, and like this policy to ban slaughterhouses, whatever, is the right thing to do for our community, for our state, whatever. That was a really powerful message where people would be able to like totally agree with it, totally be like, okay, yeah, this person's not preaching to me. They're not judging me. They're someone I can identify with. And like, yeah, that's reasonable. I enjoy a good steak, but I want to support animal rights in this policy way. So our kind of takeaway from the research was to try to focus on the civic ask, talking to people as citizens, as voters, rather than as consumers, because when we talk to them as consumers, they get super defensive and they don't want to talk to us. That's the, try not to think about it, cognitive dissonance portion. So then in 2023, we started Pro Animal Future, which is our political organization. We use grassroots campaigns for ballot initiatives, for grassroots lobbying and voter bloc organizing, try to influence local policy and really build a movement around policy, around civic engagement. So that's what we're up to right now. We have budding campaigns in 3 cities in the US, in Denver, in DC. Those are both ballot initiatives. And then in Portland, Oregon, we're working on some city lobbying.
Well, that's very exciting. And then, I mean, for me, I wish I knew more about politics to be able to take action. I do call the representatives and email and I do those things, but it's always been very foreign to me. And I feel like probably to a lot of people, how's the easiest way to learn more about the system? Or maybe I don't need to learn about the system. Maybe I just need to do my own thing, but I would like to be more knowledgeable. What would be the best way for me to go about that?
Yeah, well, there are a lot of organizations that will give action alerts where, you know, you're calling your representative, you're emailing somebody to support. That's super important. And so I'll say that when organizations ask you for your address, they're not just being nosy. They need to know who you're a constituent of. Because if, you know, I could write to somebody in, Oklahoma or something and tell them what I think, but they don't really care because I can't vote for them. Where if I write to somebody who's, you know, my own city councilor or my own state representative, and I include my address, then my voice matters a whole lot more because I'm actually their constituent. I'm actually the person that they're employed to serve. One thing I'm really excited about, though, is the idea of not only engaging the political process when there's already a bill that's up for consideration, or when there's a session where we could introduce bills, but actually engaging a little bit earlier, and that's with politicians, with people who are looking for that seat, where they're up trying to get power. The thing that they need in order to get that power is votes. And I think the animal movement has really not done hardly anything so far, and a lot of untapped potential in getting the right people elected. And that doesn't need to be getting our own people elected. Like, we don't need to be powerful enough as a movement to get everybody that we like, to get one of our own people, you know, like I don't need to run for office. And I also don't need a movement that's strong enough to elect me for office. All we need is a group, a voting bloc, a organized group of people who is able to strategically support one candidate over another on the basis of animal rights. And if we can do that, it's actually not very hard to make the difference, because a lot of, especially local elections, can be super, super close. And a lot of people don't vote in local elections. And a lot of animal rights is organized very, very locally. And so what I would love to see more of, and I'll be talking about this also at upcoming conferences, AVA and ALC, I would love to see more people in the animal rights movement support local candidates who are promising things like a raw ban or a fur ban or other things that can be done at the city level or county.
Well, that's very helpful to me, and it makes me feel like I don't have to know everything about politics, but I just need to. I mean, I can do, you know, with giving my email and information out for the action alerts, and then looking at these smaller elections. I mean, that seems to have a lot of power from what you're saying. So that really does help me, who is a novice about everything. But I do what I can, and I do it. I just wish I understood more. But like I said, maybe I don't need to understand more. Maybe I just need to do what I can, you know, vote, call. And yeah, we had a horse die here on the streets of Atlanta, downtown Atlanta, and Georgia Animal Rights and Protection was right on it, sending me an email, you know, of who to call. So calling and leaving those messages for those people, and the emails really, you know, and that really makes me feel good. And it does. I mean, these are local officials that can change these terrible laws for our horses here. It seems incredible that anyone, I mean, that it's not common sense to keep horses off the streets. I mean, I don't understand it. I can't wrap my head around it. And really, when I leave messages for people or anything, I mean, or emails, I try to send them from my heart. Like, you know, this horse deserves to be in the fields and with the trees and the grass, not in the concrete with fumes. I mean, my gosh, just common sense that these poor horses that they shouldn't live in these conditions. So anyway, I'm on a rant, but you know, I think we have to be fueled up to make progress. You know, so yeah, I'm excited to keep doing my part and to support your organization and to hear you at VCOP 21. And let me remind everyone, it is the 26th and 27th of April, making big change happen. And so I think your segment is on the 26th. So I really want everyone to get it on the calendar. Join us there. It's a 2-day event. And you can come in when you like, but you have to register early. Come in, check it out. if you need to take a break for lunch, come back. The recording it's going to be recorded. So you just don't want to miss out. I have a lot of things going that weekend, but I'm going to catch as much as I can. And then I'm going to go back and watch the recording. So definitely come and see Eva and the rest of the wonderful guests that we have. So thank you so much, Eva, for sharing your thoughts and the work that you're doing. My gosh, it is so powerful.
Well, thank you so much. So much for having me. And thanks so much for all your work organizing and putting this on.
Thank you. All right. We'll see everybody at VCOP 21.